Welcome back to Classic Blade Review. I wanted to make a quick video that highlights the quality or the value of two companies, one being Buck Knife and Taylor Guitar. But I wanted to just highlight a couple things about the Buck Knife company, things that you may or may not know. I did my last video. You will find an overview of the Buck 110, which is the knife I have right here. I'd encourage you to go back and watch that if you haven't seen it yet. But this is a 2021 Buck 110. It's a standard Buck 110, meaning there's no customizations. There's so many good things about this knife. It is a durable, high quality, very attractive, classic looking folding hunting knife. A couple of things that I just love about this knife that I didn't mention in my last video that you may or may not appreciate. Though it has a really great nail nick right here to help you, knives to grasp in for folding knives. What I love about this knife is there's enough of the blade, it just bugs me to pieces. Sometimes when I'm trying to, in some of my other pocket knives, when I have to find the nick and pull it up and the blade's set deep into the handle. There's enough blade, you don't have to worry about that. It certainly gives you a little bit of grab, but there's enough blade where you don't have to worry about it. So I just love that about the Buck 110. I can go on and on about it, but you can catch my previous video for that. But with the Buck 110, talking about some of the quality, Buck is really, they're really, intentional about creating an affordable, high-quality knife product for their customers. And I think there's a couple reasons why. One is they're just legend in the knife industry, and they need to maintain a good name for their company. They've always cared about high quality. They still do today. Just a couple of Bucks. I've got a few different Buck knives. I've got two of them with me right here. The Buck 110 as I pointed out before, there's so many good qualities about the durability and how solid this knife is. And one of that is how tight it's made. There is no play in this blade. Like in some of the cheaper pocket knives you may have had, or folding knives, sometimes when you pull it out, you can just feel a little bit of play either way, either side to side or up and down. There is no play at all in this knife. And that's maybe it's not a huge deal for some, but it's a huge deal for me, because I think if that exists in your knife, it's only going to increase and it's only going to annoy you for as long as you have the knife. No play at all in any of the Buck knives that I have. And again, this is the 110. And then I've also, one of the other knives I have with me right here is the Buck 503 Prince. Now this is my EDC, my everyday carry knife, pocket knife that I carry in my pocket. It's just a lot easier to carry than this big bulky knife. And it's less concerning if somebody needs to borrow a knife. You pull this out, no issues. If you happen to have something bigger, larger on you, it just may create a little of an awkward situation. But the Buck 5013, same deal. There is no play. It's so solid. There's no play side to side. There's no play up and down. It is just made solid and tight. You can see with the bolsters and the lining of the lock blade, it is a solid knife. And the other thing with all the Buck knives I have, and I don't know if this is true for all Buck knives, but what I've just noticed with some of the knives I have that are Buck is when you close them, at least for my folding knives, the blade is really centered really well in the handle. I don't know if I can get this on the camera very well. I don't know if you can see that, but right like there, it's centered really well. Where some knives, the blade will actually be way off to one side. Some knives are even touching the other side, but Buck is really concerned about quality, so it's a really well-centered blade, and that's true for the 110 as well. When you look at when the knife is closed, I can see if I can get a close-up on here. If you can see that, that is centered perfectly. So high-quality knife, attractive-looking knife. Which is just standard, I think, for the Buck Knife Company. Now, one of the things I mentioned, they have a partnership with Taylor Guitars, which is another company that I have just a lot of respect for. Over the last few years, they have developed a partnership with Taylor, and Taylor Guitars, Bob Taylor, who is the CEO and started the company, he has always been really conscious about the environment when it comes to just reusable or sustainable wood, and he doesn't want to deplete the rainforest or anywhere for the use of guitars. So he has invested a lot of research, a lot of money, a lot of production, and just has been really conscious about his production to help sustain woods that they're just seeing less of in the rainforest. So Taylor has a history of that, and Buck has really joined them. And what they've done is, in using their African ebony wood, which is what's used on the Buck 110, it has been since 2019 as a solid wood handle. It's the African ebony wood. It is the very same wood that Taylor Guitar uses on their fretboards on their guitars. Taylor actually purchases that African ebony for the use of their fretboards, and the smaller pieces that they can't use in their manufacturing company, they actually the Buck uses those smaller pieces for the handle on these Buck 110s. So I just think that's interesting. So if you are a guitarist and if you own a Taylor guitar, picking up a Buck 110, it might feel a little bit familiar to you. It's likely it feels the same as the fretboard on your guitar. So when I think about companies like Buck, companies like Taylor that are just really conscious about the environment and reusable and sustainable practices, like, where does that come from? A couple of things that I know about both these companies. With Buck, I know that the founder of the company and up until the CEO today, their faith in God, their Christian faith, has so influenced their company. It has influenced their desire to sustain a high bar for their products. They believe that what they're creating is a reflection of their character and of the integrity that they hold. So it comes through in the products that they manufacture and sell. And they don't want to take advantage of people. That's a part of the philosophy of their company that comes from their Christian faith. And do you know that's true for Taylor Guitars as well? Bob Taylor's a Christian, and part of what really motivates him in his business practices, maintaining a high quality and helping to make things affordable, to put them into the hands of the people that will enjoy their product. A large part of what motivates him and his company is his Christian faith. This idea that there's a lot of integrity behind the manufacturing and distribution and use of their product. I just think that's interesting. I'll put a link in the comments or subject matter below about Buck Knives and Taylor Guitars and what that relationship and partnership has looked like. You might find that interesting. But if you buy a Buck Knife, there's even a message with their famous forever warranty. The other side goes more into detail about what motivates them as a company, and that being their faith in God. So I just thought that was interesting. I thought I would just point out some of that information for you in the second video. I hope you're well. I hope you're enjoying your knife collection, and I look forward to seeing you at the next video.